We are very, very happy that we can be today together with, I hope, many, many people from different countries, because it's next 23 hours extremely interesting
Mm.
for, especially for everyone who is into human rights. So we just finished minutes ago, we just finished our event with the Council of Europe about the influence of artificial intelligence and human rights, and Ilka can say something about it because she had the pleasure to moderate the discussions with the experts.
Mm. Yeah, our webinar with the Council of Europe, I mean, it's our annual webinar with Council of Europe on artificial intelligence and human rights have just finished. I mean, we had the chance to discuss more about the impacts of artificial intelligence over legal aspect. I mean, it's philosophical aspect as well, and we had a chance to meet, I mean, the expert from Council of Europe as well as a philosopher. So it was quite an experience, and like yeah, I had the pleasure to moderate the discussion along with my colleague Maya, and like it was a lovely webinar.
Yes, and because it's 6:30, and as Sophie promised, we want to start exactly on point in our schedule. So I
Yeah.
think that we can already start. And to be official and to kick off with this webinar, I have a huge pleasure to introduce myself. My name is Weronika Bańska, and I'm the current president of the International Board of ELSA for this term. And together with me, together with me is Ilka Ilmaz. So Ilka, you can say a few words about yourself.
Hello everyone. I'm Ilke, and I'm honored to be the vice president in charge of seminars and conference of the international board, and being in the same board with Veronica for this term.
Exactly. And today we would like to talk more about the advocacy. Advocacy as an action, advocacy as the activity, which is definitely speaking very interesting for any kind of people who are involved in social aspect of our life. And so we will start at the beginning with the short presentation of the definitions, and how, at least how we suggest to perceive advocacy, and then also to present to you like our understanding and also our actions which are taken into this direction, because as the association which is focused on human rights, we also very active in that field, and we are trying to do our best in order to follow all of these actions, which in our opinion must be taken. So starting with the definition, this is something which I would like to repeat, and I used to say that advocacy doesn't need the definition. The only thing which is necessary here is the understanding. Why? Because it's very hard, to be honest. It's a very hard process to create one clear definition for the advocacy, which will be easily acceptable for everyone, for different social groups from different environments. So, but still, advocacy is available, and advocating as a process is available for many different, both individuals and organizations. So what is important to understand is your goals, it's your priorities, it's your tools which you would like to take, and putting this in one plate, you will have the possibility to create the definition of the advocacy. So it's more about the common sense and logical thinking than the definitions from the dictionary. But of course, if you need a definition, then we can say that advocacy is an act or a process, because it depends if it's long or short term, of supporting a cause or an issue. And we will move to the part when we will talk a bit more about the myths and misconceptions regarding advocacy. But already here you can see in this simple sentence that it's not only about solving issues, it's not only about reacting for something which is unacceptable in our opinion in the society. It's not only about changing the world because something bad is happening. It's also because we want to bring something new. We want to bring the change. So that's why, regarding advocacy, we can say that advocating means speaking up. Advocating means drawing attention to an important issue, and in the same time, so we want to influence, we want to have an influence for social groups, for the society itself, but in the same time we want to direct our decision makers towards solution. So it's important that advocacy, it's not only about raising awareness, it's the stage of the advocacy, it's a very important part, but in the same time our actions, no matter which one, supposed to be directed to the one ultimate purpose, which is bringing the change, making a difference in the world, because we have to have our reasons to act. So let's say that the definition or some kind of sentences and adjectives which allows us to create the definition bring us to the conclusion that we have to firstly gather the people and draw their attention on our matter, on our affairs, and then actually bring the case to the attention of people who have actual influence on the policy making process. But regarding advocacy, we can also, as I already mentioned, we can also notice a lot of myths and misconceptions. And this is like on this slide, you will see few points, like few examples, which together with Vilka, we decided to present to you. And because this one is like, they're like the most classical, I think, the most common. So firstly, that advocacy is only for professional lobbyists. So yes, indeed, professional lobbyists are doing advocacy, and this is their way for earning money. But in the same time, advocacy is simply just a public activity. So it may be very, very different. Depends on the purpose. Depends of the actors of the advocacy. While lobbying requires this kind of behind-the-scenes activities. So with the advocacy, we don't have to have connections. We don't have to necessarily know the right people. We don't have to always, call the specific policymakers and direct our goals towards them. We can also just go for something more general and simply start with raising awareness in general, which means that it's not purely lobbying. Advocacy, of course, is the part of the lobbying, but it's not the same. Second misconception is that advocacy means walking down the street with a bullhorn or rioting in demonstration or protest rally. And once again, railing as like a part of activism process, let's say, and sometimes it's indeed useful for democracy. But this kind of behaviors, let's say, that we can describe as tools which can be used for people to actually bring the change, to make a difference. But definitely, it's not the only way for doing advocacy. It's only one of the ways, and that's why it's also so important to always adapt the tools to the cause. But about the stages and the parts of the advocacy, we will on this topic we will focus in the next part of our presentation. Another bullet point which we have right now is the advocacy is the same as fundraising or donating to charity. From my point of view, so as a person who is volunteering and working in the international NGO, it's, I think, one of the most popular misconceptions, that people think that if they are paying money or if they're organizing, like fundraisers, crowdfunding activities, it means that it's advocating. Yes and no, because it can be perceived as a way for advocating for some people, but generally speaking, it's absolutely not about the money. And this is important to mention, and it's important to remember for everyone who is thinking about doing advocacy, because advocating means putting efforts, trying to make a social change, which is usually achievable with very, very little funds, or even sometimes with no funds. because it doesn't cost to organize a social media campaign in social media. It doesn't cost to gather people and to write down the recommendations for the policymakers and then just send the emails. And it doesn't cost to do the research, to prepare the policy paper, then to publish it, and trying to present this to people who are entitled to actually implement this in different parts of the social life. So definitely, we don't need huge funds. We don't need huge grants in order to advocate, and in the same time, in order to successfully advocate. Another one, that advocacy consumes a lot of time. So when we are busy people with normal work, it's too involving. So, well, not necessary, absolutely not necessary, because everything depends on planning and time management, to be honest. Usually, what is also one of the most general characteristics of the advocacy is the fact that the entire process involves huge group of people, and usually advocacy campaigns are planned in the way that a lot of people has small, like one single small task to do, instead of having smaller group of people with huge responsibility and huge burden on their arms. Because if we are talking about raising awareness, if we are talking about gathering people with the same point of view, so we also have to somehow involve them. And there's no better way to involve the people than just sharing with them this kind of responsibility, and doing actually something which is for them, which is important. So definitely, if you want, even if your goal is huge, you don't have to be worried that it will simply eat your time and your daily schedule, because it's very, very common that you will have a lot of helpers. And the last one, that advocacy is about politics. Ilka will have like a special part about this, but this is also like a negative connotation, that doing advocating for some cause or issue means that we will be politically involved. So yes, and this is something which is not really true, because of course advocacy can be political. That's more than obvious. But when we are choosing the proper tools, and when we are trying to direct, let's say, the intellectual focused part of the society, if we want to talk about social aspects, which means that we want to organize, activities which will allow to people to be heard, because normally they're living as a minority in the society, and it's for them it's impossible to be heard on daily basis. That it's absolutely not political, and it's our decision. And it's our decision to do how we gonna organize our campaign. But I'm talking a lot about the campaigns. So how to actually organize one or two or more of them? How to start? The most important factor is to identify your core issues and analyze its root causes. Core issue, it's, I think, self-explanatory term. You have to have your purpose, you have to have your goals to achieve, you have to know what is the content of your advocacy. So if you're going to change the situation at your university, if you're going to go for the new law regarding the social standards in your country, if you are going to protect the animal rights, very, very, very much depends. And then root causes, because while having a goal, it's the one element of the process, and the second element of the process is to actually understand why we have the issue, if we already define the issue. And root causes, it means that we are talking about the basic reasons behind the problem or issue. And it's important to highlight the word basic, because usually all of the issues are pretty complicated, and it's not so easy to actually identify the ground of the issue, because a lot of stakeholders is involved. Mostly the problem has already own history, and it's tough to actually recognize what was the first mistake which was made, where we have to start in order to actually eliminate the entire process, the entire system of connections, which made this issue so appealing. So how to do this? It's simply it's using very simple methods. Is about asking simple question, but why? And while looking for the answers, but why something is happening, but why it's like something was caused by thing A, thing B, thing C. Going through this, you are moving back, and then at the end of this at the end of this chain of reasons, you will find your root causes, and it's supposed to be your first target, because while eliminating the ground, then you have like the biggest chance for success for the entire process. And then when we have our core issue, when we have our root causes, then we have to also examine external forces. So to know what actually influence our issue, and where we have to put our efforts and put our focus on. So it's not only, and also as it mentioned on this slide, it's not only about the impact on us or on our organization, the general impact on different stakeholders. Because in order to actually organize something which is successful and to bring the actual change, we have to take into consideration many different external factors. So it's not only about, if we are talking about legal education, let's say. So it's not only about the fact that law students will be badly educated, or they will not be fully prepared for entering the job market. It's also about the fact that weak quality of legal education will influence the quality of legal services, will influence the trust of people towards legal profession in general, etc., etc. So what is necessary is to do this kind of map of thoughts in order to actually and fully identify all of the external forces, and then plan the actions in order to have the influence on all of them. And talking about the stakeholders, and then in the same time about the tools, we can, let's say, identify 4 different categories of stakeholders who must be taken into consideration. So firstly, we are talking about the targets, and of course, taking into consideration the definition of the advocacy, our targets will be always the decision makers, because we are directing our actions towards people who have the power to make decisions, or it can be also towards people who have the influence over decision makers, because sometimes it's easier to approach someone who is maybe not decision maker itself. But it's, for example, it's obvious that if we in country X, if we attack or if we direct trade unions, it's obvious that the decision makers will do something, because this is how this country operates, etc., etc. So 2 different group of people. The second category is constituents. So these people are the people who will work with us and for our advocacy campaign. So generally speaking, they are expecting that they will benefit from our advocacy. So they're working with us because it's more than possible that they will actually get something from our actions. And then we have allies. So people who share the aims of our campaign, who can help to influence, to put pressure on decision makers. So they are not co-organizers, but let's say they are our partners in crime. So people who standing next to us in order to achieve our goals. And of course, as usual, we have to have our opponents, so people who are totally opposed, they don't want us to achieve our goals. And definitely the part of our campaign is supposed to be focused on the tools and solutions to eliminate this kind of danger for our advocacy, or to minimize their influence. And then talking about the tools, it's there is no one established set of tools which must be taken. Depends on the purpose, depends on the costs, depends on the influence, on your capacity. If you are individual, if you are an organization, definitely you have to think wisely, and your tools, and also choosing the tools is one of the last stages of planning the campaign, because firstly you have to identify properly all of the stakeholders, your causes, your issues, in order to actually adapt your tools to the external circumstances, to external forces. So, and also depends on your like current point of view and current circumstances, because right now, let's say that the entire advocating process must be transformed in online version because of the worldwide pandemic, and there is no way for us right now to organize, I don't know, the entire series of parades or riots, whatever, because unfortunately we are living right now in very much virtual reality. So that's why we will prioritize the virtual tools. And one of the last process is the evaluation. This is the last process, but definitely not the least. And to be honest, I think that we can say that it's the most important one, because here we have to be fully honest with ourselves and just to see what we actually achieved by our by our campaign, and then also see if we actually brought the change which we expected to bring. Advocating is not an easy process. Advocating, it's not something very, very obvious. So it's also important to actually celebrate also small steps and small achievements, because it's like another small thing which can bring the bigger change. But definitely factors to consider is the policy gains, implementation gains, partnership gains, and organizational gains. So how many stakeholders we involved, how many policymakers we contacted, whom we convinced, who believed in us, who joined us to support the entire campaign. Maybe we just started, like this kind of snowball effect, and now other stakeholders will take over, and we will have actually together achieve something even more that we described at the beginning. So, but this evaluation must be conducted, and also all of the conclusions must be taken into consideration, or with planning the next campaign, or with supporting the others, our followers, someone who will take it over. So that's why absolutely it cannot be neglected. And from my side, for now, that's all. This is the part more general, more for you, in order to think how you can engage. And now Ilka will present you the ELSA's point of view.
Yeah. So in ELSA, maybe you can move on with the slides, Vera. Thank you so much. What about ELSA? So let's deep dive into the meaning of what advocacy means in ELSA. So ever since the early years of creation of our association, ELSA has set the goal to have an impact in the society. Actually, in 1992, ELSA adopted its philosophy statement, which is comprised of our vision, a just world in which there is respect for human dignity and cultural diversity, and it is followed by several purposes to contribute to legal education, to foster mutual understanding, and to promote social responsibility of law students and young lawyers. We have always wanted to promote social responsibility amongst our members, as well as the civil society in general. Hence, the advocacy became a tool to promote social responsibility in ELSA. So it's the advocacy actually is the core of ELSA, and it supports ELSA in pushing for change and becoming the challenge that we wish to see in the society. So in the past, there are several discussions and, of course, concerns about the nature of the advocacy, and either it can hinder the position of ELSA by being non-political. But in this moment, like, we should take a look at our purpose and read, because we as an ELSA need to contribute legal education and, as I said, foster mutual understanding and promote social responsibility. So it doesn't by being non-political doesn't mean anyway that we have to sit quietly because everything is political. And we need to express our opinions, add to our statements, shaping points of views in civil society, in youth society, and contribute to general discussions. So the way that our statements can be used by politicians are out of control, but we need to be voice of the social groups. And of course, there are several ways that we can avoid being political when advocating. Firstly, of course, through education, because our association bringing change through education to the civil society. The academic and the neutral focus of ELSA allows us to expansion of the association and the establishment of the partnership. Otherwise, that might not be even possible. And by focusing on education, we, instead of fighting with the politicians, we need to provide sources of this education. And secondly, of course, through focusing on legal aspects. Our nature as a law students and young lawyers association allows us to research, discuss, and advocate on the legal protection of the right and the importance of upholding the rule of law, of course. Since we are law students, we are focused on legal aspects. We want to explain neutral points and provide legal facts. Thirdly, of course, youth participation. As we are spanning over 40 countries and representing over 50,000 people, 50,000 law students and young lawyers, we need to be voice of them. We are the beneficiaries of the policies that are shaping our future, and we have mandate to speak about it. Lastly, fact analysis, because we don't want to tell policymakers that they are either doing good or bad. For us, the advocacy is strict analysis of fact, and we are just leaving the decision making to our recipients. And as part of our strategic goals, which is planned to implement it by 2023, Refocus and Speak Out is actually about advocacy, because Refocus is about defining what non-political means, while Speak Out means we need to be voice of our network, and we need to have an advocacy manual. So it's actually stated in our strategic plan of our association that ELSA should stand for the rule of law, human rights, and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And also, we have several projects that we are using for advocating. To start with, our annual human rights campaign. Actually, for this year's annual human rights campaign has started with an ELSA Day, so it just started. With this campaign, we are organizing several projects around the topic, which is artificial intelligence and human rights for this year. And we are using these projects to advocate on this specific topic. ELSA delegations, we are sending our members or our alumni to the sessions of international organizations and international institutions, and they are making ELSA visible. They are making ELSA more popular in these delegations, and we hope to maybe make statements on behalf of ELSA in the future to increase the ELSA's visibility and advocate on behalf of ELSA and shape the international decision making. ELSA law schools, we are affecting since we are providing an academic program through ELSA Law Schools, we are shaping the minds of young law students for a week. I mean, we are focusing on one specific topic, and they leave the respective country with the knowledge on the specific topic, with the cultural engagement. So it's also another way. Educational campaigns. ELSA has educational campaigns such as I mentioned, Annual Human Rights Campaign, the Rule of Law Campaign, ELSA Law Schools, and many other more. And we are using that to have an impact on civil society. Policy papers, this is something we hope to implement in the near future after the conferences, as well as post-conference publications. We hope to come up with something concrete, such as policy papers. And in our event on AI Youth Forum, we hope to create this concrete policy papers. And of course, we are constantly cooperating with other NGOs and institutions to come up with the good plans on to have an impact on the society, to share our concerns over the generation, and etc. And maybe you would like to add something, Vera?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Ilka. So this is our perception of advocacy. This is also our examples how to do this. But one final sentence, I think, because we are running out of time, is that for you to remember that everyone can advocate. All of you can be engaged. It's just about spending hours or two on searching your own cause, searching your organization, or maybe planning something on individual basis, and just start doing, because advocacy it's mainly based on your goodwill, on your efforts. And if you are doing something, then you can easily say that you are actually acting for a good of society. The achievements, the results will come with efforts, with time, and with some of luck from external circumstances. Definitely will come. But the first step to do is just start doing and have the will. And with this hopefully positive message, we would like to thank you very much, and thank you ELSA Germany for the invitation. Thank you for having us. And we wish you an amazing event, and for sure other presentations will be amazing. And together with Vilka, definitely we will follow. Maybe not the entire 23 hours, but the vast majority of it.
Indeed, it was lovely meeting. Lovely to meet you all. And actually, this is a very interesting meeting. I would like to congratulate ELSA Germany for coming up with this interesting idea. Thank you once again for having us in here.
Yeah, in that sense, thank you so much again, Veronika Banska, President of ELSA International, and Ilke Yilmaz, Vice President in charge of seminars and conferences of ELSA International. We know that it's probably a very busy ELSA day for the two of you as well, and your board. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us. It's been a pleasure hearing your perspective on things, and obviously the presentation fits perfectly into the entire scope of what we're trying to do, to advocate and to raise awareness of every individual being socially responsible. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you. And even if you don't stay awake for the entire 24 hours, which I'm sure you have more than enough other things to do as well, it's been really great having you.
Thank you so much, guys. Good luck.
And have a good evening.
Bye-bye.